Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome, everybody. We're here for another amazing episode of Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. And I have another incredible being here with us, Dominey Drew. So I want to just, hello, Dominey, first of all. Hello.
Hello.
He is just filled with light and laughter and fun and depth, and that's how I like to roll. So that's what when I see in me, I see in her, I guess, in that regard. So let's go ahead and get diving in. Let's tell you a little bit about this amazing being. Through inner evolution, Dominey shows business owners, authors, and coaches how to eliminate self-sabotage permanently so they can shift the confidence, freedom, and success they desire. They can get into that. So most people spend their lives struggling unnecessarily, never realizing the struggle is self-created. We have that illusion, we have to live struggle. That's the way it is.
Yep.
They're frustrated.
So common.
Right? It's just to pop that bubble. They are frustrated, lonely, unable to move past the glass ceiling that's holding them back. When in reality, one simple inner shift can shatter it and launch them forward into effortless success. And it's so true. I've experienced it. Dominey has experienced it. So many have, and it could be for you. So we're going to talk about that today. After 15 years in this work and a master's degree, Dominey has discovered a powerful, proven process to eradicate self-sabotage in a matter of weeks. It removes every block you carry and every barricade in your way so you can live the life you were meant to live. Dominey has used this process for herself and has transformed 180 degrees from this process, becoming unrecognizable from where she started. And I can tell you that's the truth just by me spending some time with her up to this point and just feeling her energy and what she's told me. It's absolutely has happened for her. So we're totally talking about how surrender can completely transform your business and your life. Sweet surrender. It sounds like a bad thing. It sounds stupid. It sounds like, why would you ever want to surrender? We're going to talk about how it's actually the most liberating, amazing, most powerful, potent thing you could ever do. And so I'm really happy here, Dominey, to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited. This is great.
So as a spiritual rock star, one of the keys that I'd like to talk about is basically it is all about surrender. We keep thinking like from, again, a trainer, conditioned, Western sort of mind, right? Attack, acquire, take, make it happen, tell them whatever you need to tell them to make them sign on a dotted line. You would think like people who are heart-centered could never go down that path, but by golly, they do when they get it into the internet marketing world, because that's what they're told. Capture, kid them, to tell them what they need to know, make them afraid, make them jump this way, that way, then through that hoop, and it's pretty incredible. And we're not taught in our approach to business and our life that, hey, there's an easy flowing river, too, and you can just kind of go with that. It can be so easy and so amazing. And so we both have had our path of transformation with this, and we're here to talk about yours particularly. So tell us about how you've gone from, I'm not saying you were one of those crazy internet marketers necessarily, but I'm just saying how we have gotten caught up into that, and how you've gotten caught up into that maybe to some degree, and the kind of maybe limits it created for you and what you were creating from in your life, up till now, and in business as well. So anything you could share about yourself from that place would be awesome.
Absolutely. And you're spot on. And I'm curious to know exactly how much of it is just cultural and how much of it is human nature. I think a lot of it is cultural, just as you're saying, the growth. I mean, I look at like The Economist or something, and you'll see how like a publicly traded company, like, if they don't get, huge growth every quarter, then they start losing shares, right? Their shares start losing value. And it's like, a thing can't just keep growing. Like that's not how the balance of the universe works. Like there has to be this, it's like the breath, right? And people who are listening will probably resonate with this in their lives, either on a small level or on a really large level. You can be, there's periods of expansion and then there's periods of contraction. And you kind of have to do that. So I'm always so glad that I don't run one of those companies, because to me, that's just such an unrealistic, you can certainly go very high for a long time, but at some point there just needs to be that. So I'm always wondering how that is, but that to me is like such a great example of, just as you're saying, is like, don't surrender, make it happen, push, 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 push. It's like,
right. Just as a quick, I was just thinking, I mean, my God, we haven't talked about the coronavirus yet, because this episode is going to air. We're still pretty well in the thick of it still. So, I mean, just see the unsustainability. I mean, people can say whatever they want. Came out of a lab and everything. It could be, I don't know. But I mean, I still say, even if it came from a lab, to me, it came from the madness of the world, any way you want to look at it. So it comes from the madness of the world. This shows up to put us in this sort of shutdown kind of, and slows everything down, because we're not listening. The signals keep coming.
We wouldn't stop.
We have to be put like in a forced, almost like a forced shutdown, because it's not sustainable to keep pushing your energy in these ways and just ignore our well-being and the well-being of humanity and the energy that we're in and our balance with nature and everything else, rather than just considering like, well, how much money are we making? How much are the shareholders making? How much is the person, the executives, et cetera, are making? And it's totally unsustainable. And that's what we're waking up to in part here, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, as you said, we weren't stopping. And so eventually we'll just get stopped. And, that happened to me in my younger years. Like I showed horses when I was young. I was an equestrian for about 25 years. And I did that really quite intensively. And there was a period of time where I think I'd hurt myself. I'd fractured my ankle or something, and I had to stop. And I was sort of feeling some frustration, like I want to do things. And I remember my mother saying to me, she's also done a lot of self-work, and I remember her saying, when's the last time that you like stopped and just like let yourself, I sort of see it as like letting yourself be, as opposed to like trying to do something or become something, or like, reach deadlines and clean the house the way you think you want, whatever, and just like kind of let yourself exist. And I remember looking back at that time, and it had been like years. It had been like, probably 12 years, I think, by that point, where I had just been doing something. I was in college, or I was, something where I was just pushing. And I'm a little bit of a pusher, so it was easier for me perhaps than some, but then I sort of wanted to keep on going, and like to just stop was like a really good exercise for me. And I'm noticing a lot with this, we're sort of forced to stop, and a lot of people are kind of climbing up the walls. And I'm really inviting people to like take this opportunity to like turn inward. Like there may not be another period in your life when you can spend 6 weeks or 8 weeks without working, hopefully getting some finances and like not have to do anything. Like that could be a single time generation thing. I'll take advantage of that shit.
Oh yeah. I mean, just think about it, right? Who would have ever come up with the idea? Let's take 6 to 8 weeks completely off. Let's shut down the whole world.
Everybody shut down.
It never would happen. Never
happen. It would never happen. It had to be forced. We were not going to do it on our own.
Right.
But I'm also reveling in like how happy the planet is, because we're not like flying and cruise ships and all these sorts of things that are just so damaging, fun, but very damaging. And it's just, I feel like I can just feel the planet sort of like,
right.
Thanks to breathe.
Thanks for the break. Yeah.
Thanks for the break.
Yeah, go lighter. And so that's what's happening. And so you went from, wow, I didn't know, we just got to know each other recently. So you had 25 years in equestrian stuff, and doing the racing, you said, with that part of it?
Jumping.
Jumping part. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. And so was it like competitive then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I did it for years. I wasn't allowed to start until I was 5 at the place we used to ride in California, where I grew up. And so I started the day of my 5th birthday. And I rode for, about 25 years.
Holy. Okay. That's
so I put a lot of work into that.
Yeah. Wow. So you are totally like, it's about, man, crush it as best as you can. Because I mean, that's my thought on you is like, I'm like, oh my God, she would have been like super, super achiever about it. And no, and
It's
so,
funny, I never thought saw myself as an achiever, but I think I am. Yeah, I think that's
yeah, I
accurate.
mean, maybe you didn't, maybe you're quietly in that kind of energy, but that's how it comes across to me, that energy
Yeah,
I sense in you. And
that resonates.
so, and really like in a quiet way, maybe still, but like, it turns into a conqueror kind of energy is what I can get for some people. Right. And
Yeah.
like, I'm going to conquer, I'm going to win. And my guess is you probably did okay. You probably did have a few victories. Is that right?
Yeah, I had a few victories.
Yes. Yeah. At least a
Few
few,
victories,
right?
lots of failures. It's always a mix.
Right,
But
right, right, right.
it was heaven on earth. I just loved the activity. I loved the horses. It was so
Yeah.
great.
So it
Yeah.
was your passion. It was something you're totally connected with. And so where was so you said 25 years, so it didn't continue at some point. So what started happening like in that phase of your life where you're just like, oh, this isn't for me anymore? You said your mom gave you that reflection, like, man, why do you even stop to slow down? But yeah, so tell me
Yeah.
more about that.
Yeah, eventually it got to the point, I was competing at a very high level, which was very cool. And then it got to the point, I think like if you're going to be an Olympic swimmer or something, where if the Olympics is your goal, I think you just sacrifice a whole lot of other things in life,
Mm-hmm.
because you just need to be at the pool every single damn day. And if you're not at the pool, you're working out, or you're, eating, or you're like resting intention. I mean, it's just like, it's like, that's the only thing you can do. And so for me, I got to the point where I could keep doing that, which I loved, or I could kind of do like anything else. Like it was to the point where I had kind of a high maintenance horse. I couldn't like spend the night at a friend's house because I had to be there to like wrap him the next day. And it was just like, it just sort of got very all encompassing. And I have this, I've recognized in myself in the last decade or so that I have this incredible lust for life. Like I love life. There's just something about it that I just love it. And I really like the full spectrum of life. I like the very high end. I like the very low end. And I like the farmlands and the chateaus in France and the, lakes in Austria. I just like, and I just, this sort of international sort of, and so I really wanted to do other things. And so I eventually gave it up because, I was feeling too restricted in my life, and I wanted to do all these other things. I wanted to have, relationships and travel. And so I did a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So you open it up and you allow yourself to move into that. And then that gave you, I guess, a sense of breath coming in now.
Mm.
Like, okay. Okay. And what did you
Possibly like
discover? Well,
surrender, I imagine.
yeah, totally, totally. So, so was when you decided that you decided to do that, did it feel like so liberating right away, or was it like, oh, well, I guess how did it show up? I mean, for some people, like something like that might be really hard, or was it more of a natural conclusion? Like, yeah, I have to do that. I have to move on. Or how was that process for you?
Mm. It was painful. I've experienced this a number of times in my life where there's a choice to be made, and I have either probably not naturally. I think I've probably learned through, because I've done this work for, as you said, it's 15 years, actually about 17 years by this point. And I'm sort of trained now to make the tough decision, even if it's painful. Like I don't avoid. Avoiding is not one of my defenses. I have other defenses, but that's just not one of. To me, there's no point because it's still there when you come back. So I've never really gotten into that one. And so I make these sort of hard choices and I move toward them, and I just sort of, okay, hold my breath, or, brace myself a little bit, and I kind of go in. And I think that was one of those, because to me, I'm someone who values growth above just about anything else. So if something, I'm going to grow more in a situation, but it's going to be harder, or it's going to be more painful, I don't even think about it. Like that's the one that I want. So I think in some ways it was really a natural, like that. I knew that was what I wanted to, what needed to happen, but I won't say that it wasn't painful, because it was just, when you do something for so long and then you stop doing it, it's a shift in your identity, isn't it? Like it shifts
Yeah.
who you are. So then you have to come out, well, who am I if I'm not a horseback rider? Who am I if I don't have horses in the barn? I'm at my farm where I grew up. I've lived here since I was 12, until I moved out. And, you know, I've got a 7-stall barn in the you know, down the hill, and there's no horses there. And it's like this, it sort of kind of forces you to reconsider who you are. And I have found, I'd love to hear your experience on this as well. I've found immense gratitude and like gratification and results out of asking myself that question: who am I now?
Mm-hmm.
Like just a fresh start. Like imagine yourself blank. Imagine you don't know anything about yourself, and you just ask, you know, who would I be if I had total amnesia and I just woke up like, oh, I like pink, because I don't have the energy around pink I've had for my whole life. Like, oh, pink is for girls and that's girly, and so I don't like pink. It's like, if you just let go of that, you know, you might actually really enjoy the color pink. You know? And so that blank slate, like, way of looking at things of like, huh, what do I actually feel like if I didn't have all the stories in my head, will, I think, kind of lead you to like the most authentic version of yourself in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everybody's journey is different. I mean, I'd have to think about that, you know, as far as myself with identity shifts. You know, I like take me in my whole life story if I start thinking about it all. But I mean, for me, I was just always been an awkward kind of different guy at a certain level, right? And I experienced that a lot when I was younger. I was, when people got to know me, really get to know me, I seemed to, you know, draw in amazing people into my life. It was like I don't know why I'm going to childhood, because I don't know where else to start on this question. But I know, like, I was like the kid who didn't have many friends, but when somebody would actually get to know me, they'd be like, you're cool. Yeah, I love hanging out with you. You know, like, could be really popular people in school or whatever, it didn't matter. But, you know, they get to know me. But I was so, like, melting into the walls, kind of introverted kind of guy that nobody knew, you know, anything about me. So for the most part, like, especially high school. So I went from that, and then I started becoming like, I got into sales eventually after I went to college and did all that and did some psychology study. And then I got into copier sales because I wanted to challenge myself. I'm going to talk to everybody, sell everybody everything. All these copier, I got copier sales. And then, but the thing is like, it's like went into that, and then I went back to grad school to get my master's, and then, you know, did all these different jobs in counseling and did this, did that, you know, got online and did the Academy for Invincible Healers, and now doing Your Secret Purpose, all these different things I've done through my life. Only to a certain degree have I done the identification thing in terms of the role I was playing, you know. It's just me. That's just how I am. So for me, my issues with identity have been more about feeling like maybe a sense of dissonance that I feel like a lot of our listeners feel. If maybe I don't fit in at all, and loving it and feeling like maybe it's bad at the same time. Like, this is horrible. I'm totally damaged goods or something like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but like, you don't belong, you know, it's basically like the drum beat there. And then to realize how amazing, you know, how amazing it is to be you, and all of a sudden discovering more and more of that as your life moved on. And so that's been more for me, like knowing I always had these huge gifts, but didn't know what they were when I was younger. And then knowing I'm supposed to do expanded big things, and then experiencing them starting to happen and continuing to evolve, because I feel like I barely scratched the surface of what's possible for me in my life. So that's what comes up for me when you kind of reverse the question to me. That's the only thing I got to say. I mean, I'm sure I've identified with a lot of things, but it's like, but in terms of roles, not as much so. But I could totally see it for you. I could see, like, if you were really in that, you're like, this is me, this is what I do. And a lot of people find themselves in those positions. I've always just seen myself differently somehow. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Almost like, well, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? And that's what I'm doing. And not as much identifying with things. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's been a gift of mine. I don't know. Maybe in that way I have experienced a sense of freedom. Well, everybody's different.
Yeah, that's powerful. I could feel in my heart when you were talking about your experience as a kid in high school. And I, I imagine it's what you would have had to challenge that in order to go into sales. Like your story or your life experience was, I'm the wallflower, I'm the major introvert, have this effect. And in order to, I mean, you busted right through that. So you had to, that may have been conscious or not, but that's the action. That's what makes the difference.
Yeah, the thing that is I so connect with you on, as far as what you were saying, at the same time as you said, I don't know if it's the hard choice and it makes me grow, I'll just pick it every time. And up until I would say now, and I would say still now in a way, like I've always been that way. I've always like, okay, where's the challenge? Give me a challenge. Give me a challenge. Give me a challenge. I like challenge. So that's why I got at the Academy for Invincible Heroes in Park, because I'm like, I want to show them they can tune in anything, anytime. They can make money. They can do this. They can do everything. And I did help a lot of people do a lot of stuff. Not always to the level I wanted, because my level was always higher. Like, no, you're more than that, And so I experienced, I just experienced the same thing in terms of always wanting to grow. And it's interesting. Some people just always want to take the most comfortable thing, even if they hate it, right? That's the whole thing we've talked about, right? Even if
everywhere.
I'll just do this, and because it'll work, it'll pay my bills. I'll be in this relationship. I'll get some love. It's at least he doesn't hit me or something. I mean, all the things we hear, right? It's crazy, but
yeah,
I get where it comes from. But so I totally get it. But it sounds crazy when you think about it, and we all do it to ourselves in different ways, for sure. But anyway, so I knew, like I said, this could get deep here. So
yeah, no, I think that's super. I think that's super accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so so the people that are feeling like they're jet setters, but maybe they're not acting like it, or they're falling but maybe they're finding they're stuck. Maybe they're stuck more so I'd like to talk to the audience today, especially too, that feels like, man, I have been that achiever. I have gotten caught in my identity as whoever I thought I was. And I know it doesn't serve me anymore, but I have a hard time shifting. How did you shift ultimately into that? You said you traveled, you had relationships, and then you got into, coaching and all the things you do now. So tell us more about your own experience with that, and what wisdom you could share with people about making that kind of transition.
Yeah, there's a kind of the way I perceive it in people. If, for example, a client sitting down in front of me and saying, "Oh, I really hate my job, but I've had someone sit in front of me and say, I'm only 12 years away from retirement. So I'm just going to stick it out." And to me, I'm just sitting here thinking, 12 years of your life. And they would, honest to God, rather spend those 12 years unhappy and get whatever retirement, fingers crossed, will happen. I don't know a whole lot about that end of world, but I know things change. So, I certainly hope that ends up working out for them. But either way, like that time you will just never, ever, ever get back. And you already know that you're going to be unhappy. It's almost like a matter of looking around your life and asking yourself where you might be settling. Because to me, that's what that is. It's, well, I'm not going to get a better job. Or I'm not going to get a better relationship. This is either all I deserve, or this is all that's going to happen for me based on my past life experiences. And your past life experiences are not objective reality. They are very biased. I'm sure you talk about this all the time. This is something that I focus on a lot, because that one mind switch can shift you from being in a place of victimhood of your life. You're a victim of your life, or you're a victim of, men, or the way women are, or the job market, or whatever it is that you feel sort of fenced in by. It shifts you from that to total empowerment of your life. Like I've worked in the dating world for quite some time, helping people attract life partners. And I've had a lot of success with that. And people will come to me and say, "Oh, well, every woman I've been in a relationship with has cheated on me." And then they'll say, so, women are cheaters. And that seems like a logical jump, right? Because everyone you've dated has cheated, and so women must be cheaters. Like that, logically, if you just operate in the brain, that makes sense. But it doesn't actually, because first of all, if that's true, you're a victim, because you can't change women, right? You can't fix women. If that is true about women, women are cheaters, then you're a victim. And so we make these sort of broad statements about the world. We generalize our life experience, right? Well, this must be true. Kids are annoying. Women cheat. Men don't want to commit. I mean, like, whatever, right? None of them are even close to 100% accurate.
Right.
But if you shift it from women are cheaters to, I seem to keep attracting women who are unfaithful. I wonder why that might be. Now that's a fixable statement, because it's something you're doing, it's something you're attracting. And then you can shift all the way to, oh, that's interesting. I seem to be I wonder why I'm drawing women who can't be trusted, women who cheat, whatever. And in that motion, you shift into empowerment. Suddenly there's a problem you can fix. And from that place, you can do anything. I seem to be stuck at 6 figures. I can't quite seem to get to 7. I wonder why that is. Great. That's something you can fix, right? If you look at your life experience as something you're drawing to you and not the objective reality of what the world is, because everybody sees the world differently. It's one of the great, right, fallacies of life is we're all walking around the earth and we all think we're seeing the same thing, and not 2 of us are. And that's a powerful realization. So there's a lot more that's changeable than people realize.
Mm-hmm. Right. So as you shifted then into, how did you get into doing this work? What led you into it?
A little bit of a nervous breakdown, I suppose. I had starting experiencing a lot of emotional difficulty. I had a hard time in my teens. I think a lot of us did. Similarly to the way you felt, I also felt a lot of loneliness and a lot of not feeling connected to others, not feeling like I belong in the world even. And it sort of came to a head, and I did this one workshop called at a place called Seven Oaks that does path work. And it was extraordinary. And my life changed in that one weekend. And I came out of it being like, okay, I want to do this. I would like to do this, please. And I was 19, and I just dove into it. They had a 4-year school. I did 4 years of that program intensively. Then I did another 4-year intensive school on energy healing, where like you had to like pass certain skills, and you had to pass each year. It was like college. It was like an ongoing school. And through the process, I just completely transformed. I ended up getting a master's degree after that. And I just went from, I mean, you wouldn't even recognize, I don't think, the person that I used to be. I had the voices in my head all the time, right? Just talking to me all the time. I was always having conversations. Those are absolutely gone now. Like, they do not exist for me anymore. I didn't even know that was possible. That wasn't even something I learned. That's just somehow that wasn't like a skill that I had been taught. I just did that on my own, because they were irritating and driving me crazy. And so I experienced a huge amount more freedom. I'm much happier. I used to rate my happiness level like 1 to 10. It was like around a 3 or a 4. Like that was my average. And now like my average day is like between an 8 and a 9. Like that's just effortlessly how I am, because I'm not carrying a bunch of the shit that I was always carrying. And even my physical body, you and I have talked about this before, my physical body changed a whole lot because I was carrying all this weight, and I was doing all these things to lose weight. And I think this is something that a lot of people experience. I couldn't lose the weight. No matter what I did, I couldn't lose the weight. And then I ended up shifting something in my personal process work around, which was for me personally, it was around, I was a big people pleaser, right? So I was taking responsibility for other people's happiness, and I was carrying that responsibility, and it was manifesting as weight on my body. And that came from a few different things. One is that one of my sort of childhood woundings was around my mother being sort of emotionally unavailable after a traumatic divorce, and me knowing on some level instinctively that I needed her to love me to survive. And so I needed to make sure she loved me. I needed to make sure that, like, caretaking, make sure you're okay so that you can take care of me. That was my sort of automatic response in that situation. So I grew up with that. Of course, I never shut it off. I didn't realize I'd turned it on. So it kept, and this is what happens, right? We have an experience in childhood, these underlying beliefs form, and then they just stay through our entire lives. And so I was carrying all this weight. I was taking responsibility. I had to make sure you were okay. I had to make sure, I'd be like, oh, okay, are you listening? Are you still interested? Are you, it was like, I was overly highly attuned. I'm naturally very sensitive anyway. And so I use that. We use our strengths as defenses. And one of mine is sensitivity to other people's energy and facial expressions and things like that. And so I overdid that. I had a really blown out sixth chakra actually, because I was always like on high alert. As a result, it's I've also mastered that skill really well. I can tell, I'm very sensitive to other people's experiences, which is very useful in my work. But it really it sort of got to the point where I was taking responsibility for stuff that was out of my control. I was trying to control it, which kind of comes back down to our surrender piece, the surrender version of that was really like, I had to control, I needed you to like me because my survival depended on it, according to me. And so there was that sort of control piece, which of course pushed people away. And I had to let go. I had to let go of your feelings about me. I had to let go of whether or not you could take care of me, whether or not you were going to respond to me, whether or not how you reacted badly when I said no. I remember finding a belief in myself at some point where I thought that if I said no to someone, that it meant I didn't love them. So of course, I wanted them to know that I loved them, probably because I did. And so I never said no. And it's like hard even now, I just think about it. It's like coming back. It's like, there's such cruelty to your own system in that. And it's a little bit, it's a tricky one because that's one of the ones that's like reinforced by society. It's like, oh, you're so giving. You're so generous. Aren't you sweet? It's like, no, I'm not sweet. That's not sweetness. That's like me not standing in my power and saying what needs to happen, which is, I'm sorry, I don't want to do whatever it is that you want me to do. And to learn the boundaries, I had to like install them brick by brick into my system because I just didn't have any. I never said no to anything. And so to really surrender to what might happen if I let go of control. And for me, because that was my underlying belief. And these beliefs they don't screw around, they're not like thoughts like, oh, I'll just think differently. It's not a thought. It's literally built into your body. Like, it's like, it's on your deepest, it's on a, maybe not a soul level, but the distortion of, so are probably right around that, and to me, that was a survival thing. I needed you to love me because I thought I would die otherwise. And so we're carrying around these like life and death situations in our day to day. And it's exhausting.
Wow. I mean, I it's funny, I get these little downloads come in sometimes as I'm listening, and I'm like, maybe you've already done this with people, but I could see you going to like campfires with people and having them, you're all talking around the fire and you're doing this deep healing and stuff. And, I just share sometimes these random downloads that come in. I could see you like, man, because it's such a, it's just something about the way you share things and the way you invite people in, like, let's get real, let's get into it, let's talk about this, let's see what's really going on for you. And you're helping them to move through that, through this deep work that you do. So, I mean, that's incredible that, you went from, there's so many people who relate to that, by the way, that are listening, right? They're like, I know so many people are healer types, especially spiritual love heart people, sensitive empaths. Oh my God, yes, oh yes, what do you want? Yes, whatever it is, they say yes to things all the time, and they I actually find it to be a victory sometimes that I find those people when they're in that place, and all of a sudden they start saying no to things like, Daniel, I will not be attending, no. I'm like, well, I kind of wish you were, but you know what? That's awesome. I'm glad you're finally saying no. Like,
it's such a sacred thing. It's
Right.
like finding your sacred no. It's beautiful. It's beautiful because otherwise you're trying to be everything and then you're deluding yourself and you're miserable and you don't know why because all you're trying to do is make other people happy. Oh, it was such a trap I was in. It was just, it's very, very painful place.
Yeah, and so many people can relate to it. And
Yeah.
it's funny when it is, taking from the standpoint, it gets in your body, it gets in your cells, it gets so deep in and everything, and it's not just your thinking or whatever. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know if I found it so much for myself all the time at all, but there are times when it happens, of course. But most people, like, as they do deep transformational work, they just, as the layers come off, they're just like, oh my God, I can't even believe the things they're operating. I didn't even know they existed, some of it. They
Yes.
start finding like they had no clue that these
Yes.
things were going on. It was so reflexive. They thought it was so much a part of just who I am. And I start realizing, no, it's just these old programs are running you and you didn't even know it. And
Yes.
that's what's so powerful is when you have process to help people discover those things and to move people through those things. So tell us, how can people discover like these programs that are running them? There's always the ones that like, oh, okay, I don't feel I'm good enough, all the usual ones, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, and all the ones like most people feel at certain times. But like, how do you help people discover the ones that are kind of invisible to them or totally invisible to them, and then help them work through that, through that energy in their body, like you were talking about?
Yeah, that's my favorite. The ones that are totally, because it's exactly as you say. It's like, oh, I just assumed that was a part of life. I just assumed it's
Mm-hmm.
like people who you'll sort of hear on people who do like back pain, specialize in back pain, and people will go in and be like, I didn't even realize it was possible to have a life without pain. I just got so used to it that I was fine. I was fine. You're fine. Everybody who's listening is fine. You're all fine. It's
We're all
okay.
fine.
All right. Don't panic. Everything's fine. And if you want to get better, if you want less pain, less frustration, less voices in your head, then like this is the work that you and I do, Daniel. Like this is the way out of problems you didn't even know you had. So the question is like, how do you know that you have them? Anything that keeps, two things. One is, if there's anything that you want in life that you don't have, there's something that's blocking you from it. Okay. There's nothing that there's nothing you can't have. If we speak on like a large reality based, on a soul level, there is nothing, because you're literally here in this human body to kind of, to get what you want, to have desires and to have them fulfilled. Right. That's where humans are meant to lead joyful lives. And then we just get in the way of that a lot. And the sort of unmessing up of ourselves is this sort of, human process in which we find ourselves. Generally joyful, sometimes a real pain in the ass. Either way, you're right. So if there's something that you want and you're striving for it and you don't have it, then there's something that is that's blocking you there. And the other thing is finding patterns. Like, what is it that keeps happening that you that you don't like, right? What is it that keeps happening to you? And it may not look like, okay, every woman leaves me in relationships, right? It might look like, oh, well, one woman broke up with me. One woman died, and one woman, she really wanted to be with me, but she got, I don't know, deported. I mean, for some reason, so those look like three different reasons, but the trick is to find the underlying pattern, because you are the common denominator of all of your past experiences, right? You are the one who's had them. You're the only thing that is exactly the same in all of your past experiences, the only running current. And so that's the, in mathematics, that's like the variable. That's what you need to solve for, right? So if you look at that as like, okay, yes, all those three women like left, quote unquote, in different ways, but they all left, or they all abandoned you, or whatever feels rich in your system, whatever resonates, right? And the resonance is like, you feel something to be true. You probably talk about that, here on the show as well. So it's anything that sort of feels like it's true. Like you may say, just as you said, oh, I'm not good enough, or oh, I'm not worthy. And one person you'll say, I don't even, like I never tell people what their experience is because the words may not be right. So it won't resonate. So I might, I'm listening to them talk and I go, oh, there's a self-worth issue. They don't feel they deserve it. That might be the piece that I get. And they might say, I just, no matter how hard I try, I can't have what I want. And that will be their phrasing. That's what their little system said when they were 3 and they realized this was how the world worked, or they thought they realized this is how the world worked, and they carry that statement. So the statement will resonate or not, which I think is really, is very powerful and makes our jobs need to be very, it's not quite the right word, but I want to say something like passive, to where we hold space and facilitate, but we're not, telling you what you believe or what's true about you. It's like, because it may not be quite the right words. So that's a really fascinating process, but finding the patterns of what keeps happening to you is your red flag that there's an underlying issue there. And if you go to the core of that, that's where the gold is. You find that belief that you're carrying, and when you hold it in a certain way, it can release, and it's truly gone. Also, it's not like a, massage where you feel better afterwards and then the problems don't necessarily go away. It's really the issues that I have cleared no longer exist for me. The things that I used to have huge amounts of charge or upset around or drama around or whatever I was carrying because it was attached to my ego in some way. It's like, they'll just bring it up now and I'll be like, okay. I even had to let go. I mean, I am like a healer in this life. Like, I don't even know how that's going to look. Like, I don't know the business side of it or the sort of the manifested side of it. I truly don't know how it's going to look, but I've been very, very clear for multiple decades that I came here to experience a certain partnership, and I came here to fulfill my purpose, which in this world is healing in some form or another. And at some point, the last year, I actually got to a point where I was practicing this surrender to a really intense place, and I had to let go of being a healer. I had to let go, really face the reality that may not happen. And can I be okay with that? If that's not supposed to happen, right? Because I was looking for areas where I was pushing, right? Where there was some forcing current. So if that's supposed to happen, that will happen. If not, can you be okay with it? And that was a big wave of surrender for me. I had, back to the beginning question we asked, who am I if I'm not a healer? Does Dominey need to be a healer? Have I identified with that? Am I attached to that? Because if so, given that that's the profession I'm choosing, that's going to be a problem. This work keeps you real honest.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is so beautiful. I mean, because that gets into the topic, because that was one of the areas we really connected when we first met, was around the path of surrender, and within business, especially too, we talked about. And yeah, we take on so many ideas and so many concepts, and we do take on all these levels of identity, really. I mean, like I said, for me, maybe it's not like, oh, I'm a plumber and I believe I'm a plumber, but there's a lot of identity ideas, that I've carried and then let go of. So, but yeah, I mean, if you can let go of the idea that you need to be anything, it allows you to be free to be just who you are. So it's like, yes. Okay, because I used to push that on people because I was trying to maybe embody it more myself, maybe. But I was like, you're a healer. No, you're a healer, and I will make you be a healer. And no matter what, you're healing. And, and I was that guy. And it served to a degree, but it was limiting in a way too. And it was maybe having people, maybe it is slightly, I mean, in some cases, maybe feeling like, like, hey, leave me. I actually had one lady tell me, if I don't want to be a healer, I don't need to be, so leave me alone. That did happen one time. She says, it's my choice. Maybe it is my path, but I get to choose it. I'm like, well, you're right, no problem. So,
that's a great observation there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have found even levels with surrender, and I'm sure you identify with this too, or can relate or whatever. Identify, it's a good word. You can relate to this. So anyway, recently, like there was a part of me, there's this new possible partnership thing going on. And like, I'm like, oh my God, and we could do this and do that. And wow, and we could make this all happen like this and that. And then I got together with someone's, helped me over the years as a coach and energy healing and everything. I got together with her, and then by the time we're done with the session, I just realized, oh, yep, that's just another ego identity. It thinks, okay, we got to make something happen, and you can pull it through. You'll be you'll win the day, and all this stuff. And it's just another pattern. It feels really good. It feels like aligned. It's God's mission for me. It feels so real. It's so. And so what we start waking up to is the things that you think are so real, even the positive, godly aligned things, even the things that feel so godly aligned. After a while, you start realizing maybe that isn't even true. And even if it is, the relationship you're in with it is sticky. And
Yes.
and when you ask wise questions like you said, well, can I let go of that? Because when you can let go of it, you have a chance, just like all with the manifestation principles in general, you have a chance to let it flow and let it be now, rather than be in this weird relationship with it. So I love that you shared that. I mean, that's so important to the process of surrender. Like, I want to be a multimillionaire. I'm going to do. But what if you're not a multimillionaire? What if you're not meant to be a multimillionaire? What if you can let go of all that? Now what's possible? Now what do you, like the Byron Katie stuff. Now, if you could be free of that thought, just even that one aspect of it, like you could be free of that thought. Well, what's possible for you? Oh, I guess I'd be free to do whatever the hell I want and make millions anyway. So like,
yeah, it's exactly true. It's like the stuff that you want is already stuff that you want. There's the way they explain it in my school. I went to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, and her version of that question was, "What's here now?" That's it. That's how you start it's often how I start my sessions. I'll just be like, great, what's here now? And that just sort of, it's not like, how do you feel? Cause you may not be feeling any certain way. It just keeps all, those boxes from kind of closing in. But in the tradition that I learned, it was called the idealized self-image, who you think you want to be. Right. And there was an exercise around, you wrote down like who you are. Right. And there were, cards, and I was like, I really loved like international travel. And I had this thing about being, this is so funny to talk about. I have this thing about being like international and exotic. Right. And I'm like this super like white bread chick. Right. But I had this thing about, I was international and exotic, and it was a distortion of the core quality of, I love anything international. Like I'm a big UN buff. I love just anything that is global. Really resonates with me. Whereas if you ask me if I want to take a trip to Ohio, like probably not, it just doesn't kind of light my fire. But I had an attachment, right? And the exercise was to write these things down, and then they went through some sort of process, and then we had to give them our paper, our what we'd written. And I didn't want to give her mine. I didn't want to let go of it. And I remember her saying, she said, you can still be international and exotic. Giving this away just means you don't have to be. And that's the shift. The difference between who you really are and your idealized self-image is just having to be. I am a horseback rider. Okay, well, at some point I might break both my legs, and then what's going to happen? Right? Can you still be you, or can you not still be you? Right? At some point, you're not going to be able to. You're going to be too old to ride, or you're going to, be an invalid or whatever. So it's just a matter of not having to be. I don't have to be international and exotic anymore. I still want to be. When you strip away, and you risk when you strip that shit away. And the same thing when you face your underlying belief is like, well, I can't just say no, because my system knows, right? It knows for a fact that I will die if I, say no and you don't love me anymore, or whatever my story was. And so you face death in a way. And you're always safe, and you're held there, and you're in a room full of, people. And this is how I learned to do this work. But you really are inside, you are facing a very real death of sorts. And that's necessary, because parts of you need to die, because they're not real. They're masks, they're armor, they're things that are stuck on you that you think that you need, that you don't really need. And so the questions that we're asking today are those sort of deep questions where it rocks your foundation a little bit. And rocking the whole first week of my program is in rocking your foundation and like what to expect in the first week, because like things are going to shake up, and they must in order to change on a level that you're seeking to change.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to happen that way.
Yeah, I always say when people get all like, I'm having a panic attack. Oh my God, I can't handle, being in this, doing this work, or, all these things, or I'm getting mad. I'm getting really mad. I even had a person at one of my events say, you better back up. You better back up right now. We're doing parts work, shadow stuff. And she said, you better back. I'm telling you, you better back up. Honestly, because I'm present enough, I was just almost, I was laughing kind of. I was like, okay, right. And I get excited when people tell me that sometimes. I'm like,
yeah, because their energy's moving. They're like, yeah, they're revved up, and that revving there's your motivation to shift into something new. Yeah, it's very exciting.
These things are very exciting. So what are some of the things, I wanted to ask you this because we're going to be, we're getting, like they say at the TV shows, right? We're getting up against the time limit here, or whatever. So tell us more about, the experiences some of your clients have had, working with you, and then tell us, then we'll get into how people can contact you if they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've focused when I first started my coaching work, I've studied and researched and I've done my master's and everything for the 15, 16 years there. But the business itself has really run for about 3 or 4. And a number of those years were spent helping single men attract life partners. That's just the niche that I chose to do this work in. And so I have a huge number of testimonials. They're so beautiful. These guys come to me because, they're afraid of rejection, or they're, a lot of infidelity, or they're in abusive relationships or whatever. And they experience these massive shifts. I was kind of joke with them that they end up getting a lot more than they signed up for. Because when they sign on with me, and usually they've heard my podcast, or they're sort of familiar with my work a little bit. So they're not sort of like expecting tips and tricks. Like I tell them up front, like, I'm not going to teach you any techniques because you don't have any dating problems is the reality. Wherever you think your problem is, it's not there. It's in you. You've got personal problems that are showing up in your dating life. Okay, now that we can fix, right? And so they experience, just huge amounts more freedom. Their self-confidence just gets way up. I've had guys who've come to me and described themselves as machines, and they felt that way. And now they make jokes about being a Care Bear. The armor falls off and the heart opens, and they're able to stand in their power. Some guys aren't able to speak their truth. The nice guy thing, which is not what people think it is, but leads you to be walked over by women because you're not respecting yourself. And so these men can suddenly stand in their power and say, absolutely, are you interested or not? If not, that's fine. There's a lot of charge taken off. Rejection. Oh my God, rejection means I'm not. It's like, just stop. That's not what it means, right? It doesn't need to mean that. And so they're a lot more balanced. They're a lot more connected to themselves. They're a lot more confident. Anxiety goes way down. This work is incredible with anxiety. Gotten through depression, gotten through, I had a guy come to me with a pattern that had gone on with him for 50 years of being rejected by women. He had no idea why. So in one session with me, we find out why, what had happened 50 years ago that had led to this pattern. And within, I think, another week after that, the pattern started shifting. This woman he was pursuing and chasing, who had not been interested, turned around and became interested. So the entire world can change, right? Some people have come to me because I had a client come to me because he was anxious on stage. He's a musician. All he wants to do is get up on stage and play guitar and sing. And he was riddled with anxiety. And now he's up performing on huge stages, and he loves it, and he's shining his light. And it's just what every problem you have is solvable within yourself. And that's where I help.
That's what you're a master at. So where can people reach out to you, or where can people learn more, or how can they do that? Yeah.
Absolutely. So domineydrew.com is probably the best place. That's my website. And I also have a podcast called The Art of Attraction. It's not connected with the law of attraction. I think it gets that a lot. That's not really so much my area. But it's about the art of attraction and how you hold yourself back from what you want. That's sort of the focus there. And I have a number of different ways. Some people work with me in a group format. Some people do one-on-ones. I've got an 8-week course that's got an incredible success rate. So any of those are options. And I can do a free 30-minute call for anybody who's interested to talk about how they'd like to work with me. That would be great.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll put your website link for sure here, and they can check that out and get in contact with you. So
yeah.
One of the things I like to do to close the show is just to, and you've already experienced this from me, but is do some quick tuning into your energy and
Absolutely.
see what's there for your highest possibilities and everything. So you already talked about it before we got on the show, but so are you ready to receive that briefly?
Absolutely. Yes, please.
All right. Okay. So yeah, this is half joke and totally true. You are a healer. I totally, the first thing that came to me is like, I see the hands coming out. I see the healing energy. I see, like, go of the healer. So more of the healer can just show up. So
yes,
I feel like hugely today, especially too, it's like coming to me like, man, you are, the more you wake up to the true deep light of the angelic light that you are, so to speak, the deep, I want to say woo-woo inside of you, the more you go with that, the more soul satisfaction you're going to have, the more blessings you're going to experience in your own self. And of course, in a sense, people will experience another level and another frequency of blessings from you. I don't want to say it'll be better necessarily, because you do incredible work already, but it's going to bring a new dimension to your work that is going to be so yummy for you. And I believe what we'll do, we'll grow grow even more so your audience, perhaps even, the number of people and the depth that you work with them in mass is how I get it to, like in mass. So more in mass is how it comes to me. It's just a feeling of like, as far as like the old limits would be, yeah, I see like hands like cuffed to something, or it's like kind of like you're supposed to be tortured in order to get the result, is this old kind of feeling or energy I get. And so it's a matter of, yeah, you know what, that's funny that you help people get through that nice guy thing, because that's what I see in you too. It's like, you already talked about it, but like I see that in the scan. I'm like, yeah, and you're going to need to be, you can be tough, I know that, but like, yeah, you're going to need to even step that up too. So it's funny, it's both the angelic light, all that yumminess, and then being even more pointed at times, like just boom, and just laying that thing down even stronger than ever before. And the more you're able to land that vibration and that energy, there's just huge possibilities. I don't know, I see it as like huge business deals or something like that. That's how it comes. It may not be literally that, but it might be in terms of the people you work with, or who knows. But I get a sense of big money, big deals coming down. And it just feels really good that way. And I see celebration. I just see a lot of joy. So anyway, so we just do 2-3 minutes at the most of scanning here in the show. So I just wanted to share that with you. Any quick reflections or shares back about anything that came through?
Yeah, that was spot on. I can't speak to the future pieces yet, but when you said, boy, you phrased it so well too. Oh, that I need to be tortured in order for it to work. That resonates. That's still something like, isn't it so funny? As humans, we're just so focused on struggle. God. And even, 20 years later of being woken up and still it's still there.
Right.
There is just that piece of, can it really be this easy? Can I just let go? There's you go. Bottom surrender piece. Can I just totally, absolutely let go and trust that, and it's so funny because I've done so much of that, and there's still like this little layer, and that layer is enough, man. Like it's not gone, it's not gone, right? So,
exactly.
So that was very astute. That felt really resonant. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So, and then for our listeners, I just wanted to say, if you want to experience energy scanning for me, to look at the possibility of me working with you to help you get in tune and be the spiritual rock star you are, doing your big world-changing work in the world, you can go to yoursacredpurpose.com. There's an application there to see about meeting with me. You also can get a meditate, make money meditation, where it opens up your energy, your chakras. You tune in. Oh my God, I got people are listening in. I've got one person told me she's been listening to it like a lot. She says, I'll tell you what, my money is definitely rising, you know, just listening to this meditations, all they're doing the trick for me. So so check that out, and check everything out with Dominey. And we're going to put the link below for people to dive in and you know, check you out. So I'm so grateful to have you on today. I just I so appreciate you, and appreciate everybody listening today. And that's it. Any last words, Dominey?
Not at all. Thank you so much for having me. It's really been an honor, and this was fun. Let's do this again.
Absolutely. Okay, everybody. Much love to you all. Goodbye for now. You keep on tuning in, and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcasts. You're listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.